How's the sound? Good? Yeah, it sounds good. Okay. Opening of the meeting, announcement of adequate notice of meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975. This meeting notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press on April 18, 2019, and has been duly advertised in the Asbury Park Press issue of April 22, 2019. All municipal clerks of the townships and boroughs within the regional high school district have been duly notified of the requirements of the postings of the notices have been met on April 18, 2019. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Toscano,
Yes.
Are there any changes to the executive agenda you wish to note?
Yeah, just before the board went into executive session, we had announced that we were adding a couple of items. In box 7, docket number MON-L-2390-19, and docket number MON-L-2391-19. Board also discussed pending special education litigations and student discipline matters.
Meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 26, 2019, regular meeting?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Sean?
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Cappiello?
Yes.
Mrs. Fankhauser?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Messinger?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Mrs. Sutera?
Yes.
Mr. Esitola?
Yes. Now here's something new. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 5th, 2019 emergency meeting?
Move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, can we get any discussion on that? Maybe I could just explain what that was. Sean, why don't you say what it was so everybody knows? I know what it was, but he's a better talker than me.
So the resolution to approve the question for the referendum ballot for November 5th was passed during that emergency meeting. That information for the ballot question was due to the county clerk's office the following day, and it was only on the 5th that we received information from the state of New Jersey as far as what their funding participation would be in that. So it was very much with little time to spare that we needed to pull the board together, have an emergency meeting, pass that resolution, file with the county in time to be on the ballot for the November 5th general election. You will see that this same resolution, there was only one action item on that agenda on September 5th, and it's duplicated again on tonight's agenda just for in the spirit of making it known to the public that this is the question for the agenda.
If I could, for discussion, I'd like to say that the administration worked extremely diligently in trying to get this approved. They were making phone calls all over the place to get the state to get it approved, and they were successful in doing so. For that, thank you very much. With that, I'm going to yield the floor to the superintendent for your report. What is it, Sean?
The roll call vote. Mr. Bruno?
Abstain.
Mrs. Cappiello?
Yes.
Mrs. Fankhauser?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Abstain.
Mr. Messinger?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Mrs. Satara?
Abstain.
Mr. Asatola?
Yes, I was here. Okay, at this point, I want to yield the floor to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. So before, there's a number of folks that we want to recognize tonight, but I just want to reiterate and publicly thank the board and Mr. Boyce. Even though we submitted all the prerequisite approvals to the state back in May and received feedback on those in early August and turned those around in August as well, this still went down to the wire. And it was literally 5:45 on the night before these things were due to the county clerk's office by 10 a.m. on the Friday to get all of this work done. And so the board was incredibly patient, with having to advertise for a number of potential emergency meetings that we had to advertise, cancel to meet the spirit of the Open Public Meetings Act. And then thank you to the board members who were incredibly flexible over that week and came out on that evening. It came down to getting the resolution over our phones and literally reading it into the record. And so I never want to listen to Mr. Boyce read something for 15 minutes again. But that's how close it was. And, we're all systems go for the referendum on November 5th. We feel real confident that, we're putting forth, it's known as ensuring excellence. We're putting it forth in 3 questions to the public. There is no tax impact to the community. We are taking the expiring debt from the construction of Colts Neck High School, and we are giving a third of that back in tax relief and then repurposing 2/3 of it into our infrastructure, into our classrooms, into the security around our district. We listened to our community's feedback after the referendum in March, and one of that, a big piece of that feedback was that they wanted to see some of the things pulled out in multiple questions, and so you'll see 3 questions on the ballot. I would just encourage everyone to take a look at our website, to take a look at the materials that we've put on social media, to really educate yourself about the scope of the project, because we're coupling a $42 million referendum with no tax impact, of which the state is going to pick up 24% of the cost, right? Simultaneously to a funding reality of reducing this district by almost $30 million over the next 6 years. And so that the infrastructure work in particular in that referendum and the security upgrades, if they're going to happen, they'll come at the expense of some of the other programs in the district while we're facing a $30 million reduction in our aid. And to drive that home, we over the past 8 years, we've received approximately $50 to $51 million in state aid from the state of New Jersey. By the end of the implementation of Senate Bill 2, we will receive 18 million. So from 51 million to 18 million. That's how drastic the scope is. And to put forth the referendum with no tax impact to the community to get all of this work done, it's a unique opportunity. We have waited. I've been here 9 years. We have patiently waited until that debt came off from Colts Neck in order to do that with no tax impact to the community. And that's really where we're going to focus our energies over the next month and a half or so. It's Election Day on November 5th, and I would just encourage everyone to please do your due diligence, educate yourself about the scope of it, but more importantly, for those of you who live within our geographic footprint, educate yourselves about the funding realities that this district is facing over the implementation of S2. On to something a little bit lighter. We're gonna recognize our 2019 Support Staff Members of the Year tonight, and we started doing this several years ago, and it's an awesome opportunity to just publicly acknowledge the folks that work so closely with our students that there's no way that these schools could function as well as they do without these individuals working side by side with, in many instances, some of our neediest children, and doing it day in and day out in an incredibly empathetic, patient, and caring manner. And the folks that are being recognized tonight and the other folks that are doing those jobs with our students, you're really what makes this district great. You set this district apart. The pride that's exhibited from how we care for our children here, I'm proud to say that as a parent, it's something that I believe I would feel so wholeheartedly comfortable with my own children in that care, and that's a unique reality in a large, comprehensive high school. And I think that the support staff members in particular help to bring that level of intimacy to our schools that you sometimes do not have in larger places. And so I'm going to stand up and I'm going to call you one by one and just read a little bit of the recommendation processes for how you were selected. I just have a couple little blurbs from each of those, so we'll embarrass you, but it will be brief. And then I'd ask everyone to come up, and we have a nice placard, and then we'll take a group photo op for Mom. Okay.
So, from Colts Neck High School, they come up once a minute. We have Maria Hernando, who's been here for 14 years as an ESL paraprofessional. I'm just going to read a couple of things. Fernando worked with the English Second Language Program and spent the early hours of her own time reviewing the curriculum to better assist the classroom teacher and her students. She's a true resource for her students and for the school community as a whole. So, Maria, come on up. From Freehold High School, we have Michael Rhodes. He's been here 5 years as a job coach and Raise Academy paraprofessional. Mr. Rhodes is patient and kind, connecting students and learning activities no matter what their experiences are. He often contributes to lessons through his own personal experiences and helps all students develop a further understanding and interest in the curriculum through his own experience. So, Mr. Rhodes. From Freehold Township High School, we have Randy Bosley, 6 years as a job coach and classroom paraprofessional. Ms. Bosley goes above and beyond each day, works tirelessly to enhance students' independence and provide opportunities for individual growth. She serves as a mentor to new paraprofessionals, ensuring that they learn the building the students with the expectation, but that they also wholeheartedly embrace the school community. High School, we have Susan Spring, 4 years as a one-to-one paraprofessional. Ms. Spring is a one-to-one para for a student with autism. She's demonstrated herself to be a committed, kind, genuine, caring professional, works before, during, and after school with home programming to help students achieve his individual goals. Ms. Spring. Alton High School, we have Marlene Wiseman, who's 14 years as a one-to-one para and classroom support. Ms. Wiseman has demonstrated the knowledge and ability to assist students and teachers daily, even refresh their skills in chemistry to better assist their students. This epitomizes the dedication and initiative Ms. Wiseman takes to provide personalized support for her individual student needs. Ms. Wiseman. From Marlboro High School, we have Lily Beth Arias, 5 years of one-to-one para and classroom support. She's dedicated to the students and willing to help wherever needed. She helps students build repertoire strategies to help them overcome barriers related to their disability. Her efforts always lead to higher levels of independence and academic achievement for all of the students with whom she works.
Everybody good?
Here, take your boxes. Take your boxes, folks.
Yeah, they're great boxes. Okay, well, while everybody's settling in, normally at this time we have board reports, but today we don't have them. And usually they are regarding curriculum and instruction, finance, and policy, but there's been so much going on in the district at this point. We're focusing on the opening of the school year, and we're going to move forward. My friend, Mr. Magnia, did not give me any public participants, so we'll move through that. And, yes,
If I could, just for some addendum.
Sean has to bring forth an addendum.
Thank you. Just one point of order. Communications earlier in the agenda are on file at the Office of the Board Secretary. So in the back of the room, there's an addendum to G12, approval of change of status, and each board member was also provided a copy of that. There's also one change on G1, approval of resignation for Michael Bellick. The resignation effective date is November 1st, 2019, so that's a correction. And finally, under board member vacancy in L1, the resolution will stand as written with the addition of this language in the final paragraph. Therefore, be it resolved that, and here's the additional language, pending receipt of criminal history background clearance, that Elizabeth Higley be appointed to serve as the Freehold Township representative of the Freehold Regional Board of Education, but that item on the agenda will address separately. I just wanted to note that change to how the agenda was presented.
Should we address that right now, Sean, or at the end?
Yeah, that's
At the end.
at the end.
Okay, after items G1 through K2.
Right.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve items G1 through K2, please? I need a motion.
Second.
Any discussion from anyone?
Just so everyone's clear, this is just motions G1 to K2 as amended. It is not, the vacancy is L1. So that is not part of this. We're going to do that separately.
So moves to what?
Yes.
To what?
G1 to K2.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second on those. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bruno?
Yes, I have to abstain from K1, Dr. Sampson's professional conference on February 13th and March 28th.
Mrs. Cappiello?
Yes on everything, and I also abstain on K1 for Dr. Sampson.
Mrs. Fankhauser?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Messinger?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotera?
Yes.
Mr. Esitola?
Yes. Now here comes motion L, board vacancy appointment, and we only received one applicant. We will have a chance to discuss that right after the motions to approve it. May I have a motion to approve L1? Motion by Mr. Bruno, and Ms. Lavin seconds it. Are there any discussion?
Mr. Esitola?
Well, I have a little bit of a discussion. Ms. Higley, thank you so much for volunteering for this. I know you're just finishing up your professional career in the district, and you've always been there for us, just like Mr. Braverman is, and I'm very pleased that you're applying for this position. So pending the criminal background check, we'll approve this at the next meeting. Am I right, Mark? Did I get it all right? Okay. So, a roll call on that, please. Any other questions or discussion? Yeah, why don't, Mrs. Higley, why don't you come up? It's Sean's suggestion, not mine. I already know you. Sean has to take this opportunity and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Is this a job interview?
Good evening. As you well know, I just retired June 30th, but I have, some of you might not know, a very varied background. I was a student in this district. I graduated from the district. All 6 of my children graduated from the district. I was a teacher at Howe High School, and then I came back and I've been an administrator. So I really have seen the district from many different perspectives. And I think that perspective gives me a really unique understanding, seeing it from so many different lenses. So I look forward to the opportunity during the difficult times. I realize this is a difficult time to join with the budget cuts, but I feel that, I have the best interest of our students at heart, and I think that that's why I felt that I needed to do this, so that I would be able to help us forge through these difficult times.
Thank you for
So,
Can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Welcome aboard. I have a question. So because you've been an administrator here, obviously you're not really free to go out and say whatever you're really feeling. But now that you're going to be on the board, I had a question for you. As a resident and taxpayer, what is your feeling about this district's relationship with the state of education funding in the state of New Jersey? Like, what are your thoughts about what's transpiring in Trenton and how we're impacted here?
well, I think it's really important that we continue, and I know Dr. Sampson and Mr. Boyce have been going to the state. They've been telling them cost-effectively we're the most cost-effective district in the state, and I think we need to continue to communicate that not only to the state but also to our taxpayers, so that they'll come out and make an issue with the state, because we have a large community with a lot of tax payers, and if they went out and voted and made these legislators realize that they need to support, I think that's where we have to work to try to get the support of the community behind us.
And actually, could I say one more thing about Ms. Higley? This is going back several years, which actually, the one thing that really stands out, how you made a good impression on me at least, was we were talking about something and there was a massive amount of printing that had to be done and it was going to cost a lot of money. And I remember you had said specifically that you were a taxpayer here, and the fact that even though you were the principal, and a lot of people feel that, people who work for the district, they'll spend any amount of money possible, you had really thought of yourself as a taxpayer and how this big printing job was such a waste of money and all that. So when you said that, that really stuck out in my mind.
Oh, thank you.
Liz, when I was hired at Manalavan High School, Jim Wasser said to me, "You have to meet Mr. Becker," and the whole family. So your dad was the first person I met, and he took me to lunch when I started at Manalavan, and I got very close to your dad, and I got to know you, and I think I had 5 of your sons in school. So welcome aboard, and I hope I will be as welcoming as your family were to me at Manalavan.
Oh, thank you very much.
Did you give them good grades?
I was the AD, so they made all the teams.
They did make the team. It's a good thing, I'm telling you right now.
Pretty good athletes, so
Yeah, they were.
they didn't need my help.
I know Mr. Heshy wants to say
Yeah, I
something,
just
so
want
I
to
never
welcome
stopped
Liz to
him.
the board. I've known her and her family for a long, long time. I think it's a great thing for an educator to be on the Board of Education.
Thank you.
So I'm really happy that you're coming aboard.
Thank you.
And I want to add something to that, Mr. Heshy. I know you want to get the hell out of here, but here it is. That's his exact word. Well, maybe he used a different adjective when he talked to me. Yeah, heck was the word, yeah. Okay. There's one person on the board that I find to always help me out, and I call him way more than I ever should, and that's Mr. Heshy, because I have to reach out to you, and I know, Ron Lawson was a mentor of mine as well as you were. So I thank you so much, and I value your presence on the board. And, you know, this isn't all stuffy board members, as you can see. We have a lot of fun, and Mr. Braverman, we share emails about professional wrestling, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, this could also be a fun place to work. So with that, let me move forward.
I just want to add one thing, Mr.
Here we
Estall.
go,
It just,
yes.
no. I don't think Mr. Messinger meant to imply that the district mandates the opinions or stifles the freedom of expression for employees, so just clarifying that. I know it came from a good place, Mr. Messinger, but...
Oh, no. I mean, a principal's not going to come to a board meeting and pontificate about
I
the
understand.
state political process.
I
That's
understand.
what-
I just wanted to just clarify that. Just
Oh, yeah.
You're lucky I'm not a principal here, Chris. I wouldn't last too long. Okay, here we go. Can we have a roll call, please, Sean?
Yes, on L1 as previously amended, Mr. Bruno? Yes. Mrs. Cappiello?
Yes.
Mrs. Fankhauser?
Yes.
Mrs. Lavin?
Yes.
Mr. Messinger?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Absolutely, yes.
Mrs. Sotera?
Yes.
Mr. Acetola?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Higley.
Thank you, Mrs. Higley.
Congratulations.
Are there any members wishing to discuss old business?
I have one.
Yes, Mr.
I'd like to thank Shane Resma and Megan Friedman from Howell High School for helping me organize the Howell Township Farmingdale 5K on August 28th. We had 150 runners. They raised $5,000 for Contactors as a crisis hotline, and we had our biggest turnout. Mother Nature wasn't very cooperative, and but we had the race and great turnout and raised a lot of money for this crisis hotline. And next year, my goal is to get Mr. Braverman to run.
Yeah, Jeremy, come on.
I want him to wrestle Reverend Cook next year. How about that? Okay, and if anybody knows Reverend Cook, it's suicidal. Okay, old business, we went through. Any new business?
I have one item.
Yes.
and Far be it from me to extend the board meeting, but Stan Parker is retiring after 42 years and 3 months.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
That is an incredible amount of time to put into the field of education. I am so thankful that Stan worked at the high school that I worked at for a long period of time, and he was a great addition to our staff, and he's going to be sorely missed.
Is Stan here tonight? No, Stan is not here tonight. Oh, it's a shame. It would be nice to recognize him, in person. Okay. Adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Mr. Heshey, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. We're out.